Okay, it's Tuesday, I think. It's Tuesday. Miss Jules, 81, you're the first person. I like to always shout out the first person. Karen Swenson, you're the second person. Hillary J, you're the third. No, you're about you're the 50th person. Happy Tuesday. I know for many it's not a happy day. It probably just feels like another day staying at home. But I'm just going to call it Happy Tuesday because that makes me feel better. And I'm going to ask, Patrick is going to, I don't know how that works. So it's not happening. Oh, yes, it is. No, it's not. So I was going to invite Patrick to join us, invite her from his account. I don't know why I'm doing that, because normally he's sitting here next to me.
That's right.
So now hi, Patrick. So I hope you'll come over and join us on Home Together today, because we're talking to somebody that everybody's going to find really interesting, Jameela Jamil, and she's going to talk about her incredible new podcast and all of her tips and tools for mental health. So I hope you join us. And okay. We're getting really technical over here.
I'm coming to see you guys right now. We're going to go and continue our Home Together interview. And I'm just walking out to see you, Maria.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Somebody said, I'm so glad you're outside today. I am too. I made that executive decision. It's been raining a lot here in Los Angeles, and today it's a beautiful day. And so I said, let's go outside. And then I thought, well, Patrick, I could invite you in because you have a lot of followers and you could join us. So now you left and here you are. So we just tried something different today.
We tried something different, a little bit different.
So happy Tuesday again to everybody. And I want to remind everybody you're doing an act of public service by staying home. So that I hope certainly helps me to believe that I'm doing something good for my country, good for my city, good for my state. And by staying home, even though it might not feel like you're doing something productive, you are being of public service. So I think that's really important to say. Right?
Very important to say.
Okay. And today we have somebody who is also of service. Jameela Jamil is, she's an author, she's an advocate, she's an activist, she's an actress, she's a podcast host, brand new podcast host.
Jinx.
And so she is one of those multiple hyphenate women. And she's using her platform, which I really love. She's using her platform for good. She's using it to help people. And you were just saying that I would think that some people might think, oh, it's terrible to start your podcast at this time. But you were saying you'd like to talk to her. You think it might be really good.
Well, I think it's really good and interesting to talk with her in general, but especially right now as she's launched that. But just like you said, she's using her platform for good. Yes. And the weird thing about right now is a lot of people feel like they're not being great by going out, because usually during other things, whether it's like a hurricane, a natural disaster, fires, you're able to be out there more on the front lines. You're able to volunteer and be involved. And right now, the best thing you can do is really to be staying home. And I think what she's doing is...
Or listen to us.
Or listen to us and being home.
Yeah.
I think what she's doing is she is staying home. She's continuing to use her platform with her new podcast, talking about mental health, talking about isolation, about weight gain, eating. And
I should be like on that permanently, because so many, I think everybody has issues with food. And
she just got, I just saw her.
Oh, we didn't want to keep her waiting.
No, we don't.
We definitely don't want to keep her waiting. Oh, she's official. She has an official Instagram. It says name. Official next to her name. So that means she's official and she's a big deal.
You're just Maria Shriver.
There she is.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Bloody hell, that's close, isn't it? Jesus Christ. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're great. We wanted to ask you, first of all, thank you for joining us on Home Together. And we want to ask and begin with you how you, oh, you're backed up now. You're beautiful. There you go.
Yeah, Jesus, well, that just felt a bit like you were my dentist.
Don't go that far away.
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I like your point about the fact that this is a really weird time to be bringing out any kind of new show or promoting anything, but because specifically it's a podcast about mental health, whereas mental health is probably the number one thing surfacing currently while people don't have the distraction of their day-to-day lives, and there's so much stress around us. We're so isolated, and I think a lot of people are starting to have to face the things that we've been able to ignore up until now.
Yeah.
And so this podcast is for those people who just need to feel less alone, who need to feel heard and seen. And the whole point of it is just to destigmatize and demystify mental health, mental illness. You know, I've struggled with my mental health my whole life. And if growing up I had had more people speak out about this in a way that didn't make me feel afraid of it and felt like I could reach out, then I think my life would have been completely different.
In what
way? Well, in the fact that I think I would have gotten help quicker, and I wouldn't have had such a devastating 20s, and I wouldn't have been so reckless with relationships and work, and I think I would have lost all my money during my 20s. I made so many fucking mistakes, and I would like to just be the person that allows you to be okay with your mistakes and stops you from making further mistakes that you haven't yet made that I have.
Okay.
Right.
I'm the before picture. I want you to be the after.
Well, that's great. We were just saying, like you were saying, how weird it is kind of to come out with something during this. Oh, by the way, I'm Patrick Schwarzenegger. I'm Maria's son. I know.
Hi. I know exactly who both of you are. I think you're both fabulous.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to introduce myself. But we were saying how it is kind of a weird time to come out with a new podcast or a new film or anything like that. Yet I feel like this is the perfect time for your podcast to really get up and going. I mean, you're talking about, like you said, mental health, isolation, things that are so pertinent to what's happening today with the quarantine and with COVID.
Yeah, and it's about shame as well. I think that's the underlying thing in all of us is shame. I think that's the root cause of most mental health problems and most unhappiness and anxiety is the fact that, you know, we're talking about body image, or we're talking about sexuality, and Billy Porter's coming up as one of the guests, and Demi Lovato's coming on to talk about her struggle with mental health and her body image, and she's been one of the most vocal people about it. Reese Witherspoon takes me through her mental health, and we discuss medication and therapy and misogyny in this industry. It's just, and within the world, and storytelling, and so there's just all these different people from these completely different walks of life, coming and being ridiculously open with me in a way that I just didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And you mentioned kind of in the podcast that people are going to take home kind of tips and tools on how to deal with, things of shame, isolation, body shame, mental health. What are some of the main tips that a lot of people on here right now, maybe it's only one tip that you want to share and the rest they can see on the podcast, but something that could help them during this specific time of quarantine and being at home?
I have a couple. First is unfollow anyone who triggers you or makes you feel bad about yourself in any way. Right now, we don't need to ingest that information. There's enough trauma and stress out there. You don't need to be subjected to anyone who makes you feel fat or old or poor or lonely. Right now, you just have to fill your timeline with people who either cheer you up or make you laugh or teach you something, people who nourish you and make you feel better rather than worse. The other thing is listen to the words that you say to yourself every single day about you. If they are things that you wouldn't tolerate being said to someone that you love, then you are not allowed to say those things to yourself. We are unbelievably hard on ourselves. And I think that this is the first time where, because we're so isolated, we are more alone with our inner bullies than ever before. And therefore, we have to identify that inner bully, because once you can hear it, you can't unhear it. You can see it then.
I'm interested in, women talk about these subjects when we get together. Men have a more challenging time talking about their feelings, talking about their struggles. As the mother of 2 boys, the sister of 4 brothers, do you talk about men and what men are going through? So many people have lost jobs. So many men see themselves as providers and identify through their work and have lost work. What do you think men are going through now at this moment, maybe that's different, that might be different?
I think they're feeling incredibly challenged. I know that a lot of men, especially the ones who in particular have to provide for families, are feeling very emasculated and and unable to look after their own, and really, really helpless. And I also know that this is a time where if you are someone who hasn't dealt with your issues, with any of your issues, and men are just less likely to than women, because it's been so stigmatized for men to feel anything really that is remotely sensitive. Because of that, I think a lot of men are probably just ticking time bombs currently, and so I know that it's probably my male friends who are struggling the most in isolation. And because I am a feminist, and because I'm very outspoken about feminist issues, I think people think that equates with sort of hating men or not caring about men or wanting women to be superior to men. That's not it at all. A lot of my favorite people in the world are men, and I live with 3 men. Disgusting. Disgusting. It's just not, it's not hygienic, but it makes me really happy. We have Neil Brennan on the show, and Billy Porter, and Vivek Murthy, and I think Russell Brand is coming on. It's supposed to be a show that feels like it's for everyone, and also for men to understand women, women to understand men, all of us to understand all of the genders around the binary spectrum. Just makes all of us feel better and feel less alone and understand each other better. So this is a show that is truly about and for everyone.
It said there was a question here, many men uncertain where to reach out to, what to do. What apps, and that was one of the other questions I heard people saying, what apps would you suggest to people to follow, to work with, that have been helpful in addition to your podcast, if they're struggling with mental health?
I don't know if I know about loads of apps. I know that Headspace, the meditation app, are being great around this sort of stuff and helping provide you with an escape. But I also think there are loads of online therapy services and places like Crisis Text Line and different, there are places for women who are struggling, especially if they are living in the house with an abusive partner, called Women's Aid. There are multiple resources online, and on my Twitter, every single day I'm forwarding resources for mental health that are free or cheap. So if you go to my Twitter, which is @Jameela Jamil, then I'm constantly tweeting online resources for accessible therapy, because even people who are lucky enough to have therapy can't get hold of their therapist. So I think people are just, there's going to be so many divorces, so many breakups. It's so stressful. It's
Well,
a very tricky time.
You don't have stress in your relationship, but many people are experiencing stress. Yeah.
But one of the things I found really interesting was you were talking a lot about, progress and progression and that versus perfection. I want you to kind of elaborate on that. And so many people right now, I feel like are really down, whether they've been laid off of work, they don't know if they're going to have work. Everyone's and righteously so, a negative kind of mindset. How can we focus on progressing as kind of humans, as people during this time, and not focus on so much of that perfection?
Right now we can't plan. Like, this is completely unprecedented, and we've never seen anything like this in our lifetimes. And so you have to give yourself a break. You cannot expect to predict your own progress, and we cannot predict the progress of the entire globe. Right now, your only duty is to survive and to keep other people safe by staying indoors if you can and being responsible. You don't have to become a TikTok star or write that screenplay or finish that book or do anything outside of just doing what is advised by the government, which is to stay inside and just stay alive. That's it. You don't have to get your beach body right now. You don't have to focus on anything other than just living through this moment. I don't feel productive. I don't know about you guys, but do you feel productive right now, particularly?
I've felt pretty productive.
Yeah.
But
Fuck you, Patrick.
I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say like
a different kind of production.
Yeah, but
I know.
I would go back to what you were saying of the progression and the progress. Like, I think that these are cards that we've been dealt during this time, and it's how do we not utilize this time, but how do we continue to progress is how I would say. And using that term progress, I feel like we have been progressing at home in our own ways and towards spreading this mission of highlighting people that are using their platforms like yourself to help others. And in turn, I feel like that's kept us
sane,
busy,
and hopeful,
everything like that.
I personally am not feeling super creative. I'm feeling anxious, and I've given myself permission to just sit in that anxiety and know that this will come to an end and we will find our way out. But when it comes to progress, I agree that, in my opinion, a very healthy use of your time, if you are someone who doesn't feel like you can take on a new skill or put something out into the world or whatever, if you feel helpless right now, this is a strong opportunity for you to look at all the feelings that are surfacing currently and all the things you haven't had time to address emotionally. This is a perfect space and time where there are no distractions, and you can really investigate what it is that you're feeling and start to work your way out of those problems. There's time to read and research and look for other people who feel the same way. Right. This is a moment to work productively on our mental health.
Yeah, so I would still categorize that as productive.
Yeah.
It's just I guess.
I meant creatively, but yeah.
Creative, yeah, because I guess it really goes down to the idea of what do people define as productive. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people, when you say productive, they probably right away go to like economic terms of, are they progressing in their career or in their job or in their making more money or financially? But just like you said, you could easily be productive and progressing just in a different way on your own mental health and on your personal and your mindset and your personal development side. So
my hygiene is just going down through I haven't washed this in a month. I can't even. It looks like it's been snowing outside because I'm so covered in shit.
In a month, so.
But I want to ask you, because I thought it was interesting. You called this I Weigh.
Yeah.
And I think that the story behind that is, I think, super interesting. And so many women, right, struggle. I don't know a woman alive who hasn't struggled with their weight, or I do know a few. Irritating, but I Weigh. So why didn't you just call it with your name? Why did you want it to say I Weigh?
Well, because I think the thing that probably first moved this conversation to the level that it's at is my I Weigh movement. It's at _I_weigh on Instagram. It's this global movement. We have 1 million followers, and it challenges people to look at who they are on the inside rather than focusing or obsessing on their exterior. Now, this accounts for men as well. This isn't just women. This is everyone who's going through this sort of pressure nowadays. But in particular, historically, we've attacked women, which is why the focus was started off on them and has kind of spread out. It has just been a really joyous thing to see us open up these huge conversations and unveil the lies and the secrets and the bullshit of Hollywood and fashion and all of the lies that we have told women to make themselves feel bad for just aging or eating or daring to exist. And so that's how the I Weigh movement started. It was a socio-political movement that then, you know, after a while, after 2 years, it just felt like we weren't giving people, there's only so much you can give people over social media. You know, there's a word character limit and etc. And so we wanted to expand the conversation, and finally we had the sort of the power to be able to get really big stars like Demi Lovato and Reese Witherspoon and Yara Shahidi and Billy Porter and Gloria Steinem and Roxanne Gay, Sam Smith, Lizzo, all these different people to come and have huge conversations with us. And so it just took us a minute to get here, and we needed to make sure we knew what we were doing, which is why we took our time.
So what would you be saying to your younger self, those young women or young men that might be tuning in who, and I read an interview that you said in your teens and in your early 20s, you struggled with loneliness, you struggled with body image, you talked about wanting to be the, get people before as opposed to the after. People sitting at home today thinking about, you know, we're all overeating, we're not moving as much. And as you said, people struggling with, who am I going to be when I come out of this? Mm-hmm. Will there be a job for me? Is there a future for me? These are all the questions people are asking themselves. What would you say to your younger self at this moment in time?
But in this moment in time, do not negotiate with shame or blame. None of this is our fault. And all of us are struggling in our own personal ways to find our way out of this and through this. And you are not alone in whatever you are feeling. So many other people out there are feeling the exact same way. And we are genuinely in, at least spiritually, all in this together. And try not to shame yourself and hurt yourself over this. You have to be tender, you have to be kind, you have to be patient, and you have to give yourself space, because I think on an animal level, this has rattled all of us from the inside. We've never experienced anything like this. It's pushing people to the edge, especially people who are homeschooling their children.
Yeah.
And so just accept that you are fallible, accept that you are human, accept that you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to be the greatest teacher to your children. You're not going to get everything right. You are going to piss your partner off. You're going to piss yourself off. You're going to be covered in so much food. Oh my God, I stink. You're going to stink. We're gonna grow a beard where a beard didn't used to exist. It's just gonna it's gonna happen.
It happens.
It happens.
And so I think it's just remembering that it's all okay.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that we've been talking a lot about is like, how can we, you know, when you're feeling really helpless, is to become helpful and find ways to really help each other. And like we started this kind of conversation with, was it's so tough right now because people don't really know how to be helpful, right? It's like everyone's saying to stay home is the best way, which it really is. But internally, we feel like we want to kind of go out and do more. And we've been asking kind of people, is there ways to join your movement? Maybe it's to be part of that Instagram conversation. Are there other ways that you're suggesting people to, it doesn't necessarily have to be helpful towards the COVID, but helpful towards themselves and their peers and their, their neighbors, etc.
I think be very mindful about the way that you speak publicly when you are like talking on social media. Be sensitive and be thoughtful of the people around you. Try not to add to this culture of fear currently and misinformation. But I also think that there are ways, if you have any money to spare, there are people that you can donate to. I'm spending most of my days looking for different organizations to donate to. I'm also personally on a tech service with 9,000 people called Community, where they can text me straight to my phone, and then I send them weird little voice messages giving them advice, or if they need money, I send them money. But just find different micro ways. Like, I'm obviously in a position of privilege, therefore I can give more than someone else who has just been laid off from their job can. But even just forwarding information to other people who can. There are so many different ways, so many hours in the day where we can find little ways to support and be kind to other people, because I think right now kindness is our only shot out of this.
Yeah, I think several people on here mentioned virtual volunteering, but I think you can go to iWay on Instagram and you can post stories, you can find community. I think people look for a sense of belonging at a time like this. So in addition to listening to your podcast, which will make you feel less alone, right? You can go and join iWay. And then, as you mentioned, there's a lot of good online therapy that's out there now. There are good meditation apps and stuff like that are helping people learn how to be present, learn how to deal with their anxiety. And just in closing, is there kind of one thing that you find that works for you at this time when you struggle with anxiety, when you struggle with loneliness, when you struggle with the lack of creativity that you're feeling and all of that sort of stuff? Is there anything you do that might be helpful to others?
This is my own way through. I was a super lonely teenager, and I was always very sick when I was younger. So my way has always been to bury myself in comedy, and that's it. I'm soaked in comedies right now. I want escapism. I need to laugh. I need dopamine. And so for me, I would say go back and watch anything that reminded you of a better time. Go and watch. There's Fleabag, anything by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. There's Barry and The Good Place, which I'm on. All these shows that make you feel warm and fuzzy. I think right now is you shouldn't feel like you're doing something wrong by watching television 12 hours a day if you have to. Just why would you be here when you could choose to be there? Do you know what I mean?
That's great. So Jameela, just finally, I said in the beginning, you're a writer, you're an actress, you're a podcaster, you're an advocate. What is the role where you find yourself like most in your zone? This is what I'm born to do. This is where I belong.
I'd say probably as an advocate when I'm discussing matters that, like topics that matter. You know, I grew up as definitely a victim of this industry, and someone who grew up with very poor role models, and an industry that gave me messaging that really, really twisted and turned me up from the inside out. And so I want to use anything I get within this industry to try and undo that and not be part of the problem. So for me, whistleblowing on lies and misinformation in this industry, and inherent misogyny or lack of representation, all the different things that we've come up against in this industry that we think it's not relevant, but I think we know by now that the media industry bleeds into our culture, and that culture bleeds into our society, and so it does make a huge impact. And I love talking about that and demystifying things and just getting into trouble.
Getting into trouble.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, and we really appreciate to be able to talk with you. And we appreciate that you are using your platform to help other people, to give back, to be an advocate. So thank you so much for that. And
iWay, go listen to iWay. You can download it. on Apple, on a podcast, and you can listen to these very moving conversations with people talking about their own struggles, what they've confronted in their life, how they found their way forward. And that's really what you wanted to do, was make people feel less alone and know that there is a way forward.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Go back to your
Stay
comedy.
safe. This is the only clean part of my house. That's why I have to do the all of my interviews just in this corner, because it's the only part of my house that isn't covered in actual.
Okay, don't move then. Don't move.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye-bye. See ya.
Well, that was fantastic once again.
Once again, yes.
Once
I
again.
love that people are using their platforms to help other people. As we always say here, these are conversations with the helpers, the healers, the cultivators of hope. And I think that I like the way she, mentioned that even though she's a feminist, which I'm always talking about because I consider myself a feminist, we need to talk to everybody. Everybody has mental health challenges. Everybody at different times in their life feels lonely or feels shame. And so I think broadening that conversation, becoming good listeners, watching how we talk to one another, those were all really, really good points. So I think her podcast will do well.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, she said she has over 1 million people on that highway
she does.
Page already, so I'm sure she's doing
she
great.
Has
with
millions of people listening to her because she's official.
Yeah, she's official.
She's official.
We should change our names to
We're
Patrick Schwarzenegger official.
Yeah.
Maria Shriver official.
Official. I want to be official.
Same here.
How do you get official?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll look into that and we'll circle back. And we want to thank all of you for joining us. People say they love your hat.
Some people have said, what does that mean? It's Los Angeles Fire Department, LAFD, for people that can't. I think it's backwards. So.
I see. Los Angeles Fire Department, bravo. They do such extraordinary work day in, day out.
Yes, they do.
They do.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Once again, we are back tomorrow. My name is Patrick Schwarzenegger. I'm Maria's son.
And I'm Maria Shriver, Patrick's mother. You're going over to your site and you're going to talk to the IV guys.
Liquid IV, yeah.
Liquid IV.
At 3.
Oh, at 3. Okay. But
a little bit. But thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and we will see you
tomorrow. We're having Mark Groves back tomorrow to talk about relationships. So whether you're in a relationship or not, he has really valuable advice. I listen to him all the time. I find him to be super helpful. And that's why I wanted him to come on the show to help us all in our relationships.
Awesome.
Bye.